Welcome back to another edition of Rare Delicacies. I'm John, and for today I want to talk about subgenres. When someone asks what kind of movie is it, the base answer is usually it's a comedy, it's a drama, it's a romance, it's a horror film. And while that definitely sets you on the trail of figuring out what kind of movie you're in for, it doesn't tell you everything. The purpose of a subgenre is to help you get a better idea of what kind of movie it is, in lieu of the fact of whether or not being a comedy or a drama or a science fiction or a horror film. They tend to give you a better idea. With horror, you'd say, oh, it's psychological horror, so you'd think Silence of the Lambs. Or it's a slasher film, so you're thinking Friday the 13th or Halloween. Today, I want to focus on comedy. The fascinating thing about comedy is that this is one of the few genres, like horror, that is enslaved to the sensibility of the viewer. If it's, say, something of a more simple-minded, scatological affair, then they would go to the works of the Happy Madison Production Company. Then again, you've also got the pretentious, snooty, highbrow crowd. They would prefer some of the more delicate, dry-witted comedy of manners, like, say, the works of Molière or Noel Coward, even Oscar Wilde. Then you got some of the ones who prefer things who are more quirky and a bit more out there, and kind of infringe on someone's sense of reality. Those would probably be the works of, say, Wes Anderson. But for today's example, this would definitely fall underneath the absurdist category. Today's film is called HAIKU TUNNEL. HAIKU TUNNEL is an independent film that was produced by Josh Kornbluth himself based on his own one-man show. This is a film that I discovered back when I was working at Blockbuster Video, and I absolutely adored it. So much so that I even went to go see Josh Kornbluth when he was performing his latest one-man show, Love and Taxes. And fortuitously this worked because afterwards I ended up starting becoming a temp myself. So this one really hit close to me, and I absolutely fell in love with the way this one exaggerated all those idiosyncrasies that usually get associated with working in the secretarial pool. So it's in the spirit of experimentation, I decided to bring HAIKU TUNNEL to a good friend to see if his comedic sensibilities match my own. And with that, I took this over to David Horgan, who you might remember from our previous episode, Closetland, and as a sign of gratitude for him introducing me to that film, I decided to introduce him to this film. So, without further ado, let's take it back to Mr. Horgan. The guy who wrote it was Josh Kornbluth. He was a one-man show artist and comedian. He came into prominence when he did a one-man show called Red Diaper Baby. And it's a one-man show about his upbringing with his father, who was a communist.
Okay.
He said his father used to raise him, or wake him up every morning singing the Internationale.
Okay.
So he was aroused every morning with the Internationale, and he didn't think any better, but he goes through the lyrics going, "Arise, ye prisoners of starvation." I always interpret it as, wake up, it's time for breakfast. Arise, ye wretched of the earth. It's Saturday morning and I'm being woken up at 6 a.m.
And the cartoons aren't on. Yeah.
HAIKU TUNNEL chronicles his times when he was still an aspiring novelist, an aspiring writer, and he was kind of falling into that bit of complacency when he was going from temp job to temp job. And it kind of chronicles his journey when he finally goes perm and ultimately gets his entire world thrown into upheaval just by going perm, how something so simple just throws everything off. And around that time, Office Space was rising as a cult film. Office Space is more like Clerks to me.
In what sense?
Well, in the sense that whereas Clerks was a really good representation of over-the-counter culture,
Okay.
Office Space was an incredible satire of working in a cubicle office environment and how it basically pointed the spotlight on all the things that irritate the ever-living hell out of you.
Oh yeah, the number of times I wanted to reenact the printer scene.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, HAIKU TUNNEL, I fell more in love with how it was more pointing out the psychological aspect of some people who seem to fall into that level of complacency, where you ever feel trapped at a job and you always know that it's not so much about the job that's holding you, it's your own self kind of like painting yourself to this corner.
Oh, I know it very well.
Kind of thing. And when some grand change comes around, all of a sudden everything gets thrown out of whack.
Mm-hmm.
You knew nothing about this prior to me walking into the door.
I had never heard of it.
Okay, well, you're about to hear of it now. So, and you guys are about to hear about it now. So, this is HAIKU TUNNEL.
Avalanche roadblock. I was a snowball in hell.
So,
What did I think?
Herculean labor.
Yeah. There were a lot of things I loved. They got the feel of working in an office environment, working as a temp, right? I mean, I can't tell you the number of times that, we got a temp, you pretty much ignore them because, well, they're the temp.
They're a temp.
There's no point in learning their names. There's no point in learning anything about them because you'll never see them again, probably. Then the minute he becomes a permanent person, okay, now...
Yeah, all of a sudden you gravitate because now you actually have to, oh God, I have to actually invest time to talk with this person because I'm going to have to live with this person. I'm going to have to get to know him. I'm going to have to...
Well, and let's face it, you see the people you work with probably more than you see your family.
It's kind of funny, when I started where I work now, which shall remain confidential, when I started off, I was a temp. I mean, I developed a camaraderie with them, but ultimately... I was working on the night shift, and so I didn't get a chance to see Lynn very often. You know Lynn, she's been in videos. But on the night shift, I saw them more often than I saw her, and it got intolerable. So, so it is kind of freaky how much more you know your office family. And the funny thing is, which probably would account for why you don't want to see them outside of work.
Oh, yeah.
It was funny seeing how these secretaries were trying to, socialize with them, and they say the whole reason is just so he's more tolerable to work with. Because, like they said, they didn't want him to turn out to be like his predecessor, who went batshit crazy because she saw an 11-page single-space memo of everything outlining all of her procedures.
Yeah,
I saw it right before I started working in the office, and even before I started temping. So this movie did actually kind of give me a good insight into the world of temping. So. That's where I think this one did extremely well.
To me, this film was kind of like a cross between Office Space and Brazil. It just captured the whole Sisyphean, it never stops, it keeps going.
The grinder keeps going, the wheel keeps turning, and we're all just cogs in it.
I'll be honest, the only thing that really bothered me, I know it's going to be a loaded phrase, I kind of call it Woody Allen syndrome.
That's not...
The really hot girl goes for the fat, balding, middle-aged Jewish guy because... Okay, guys, I'm not balding, middle-aged Jewish guy. That doesn't happen. No, seriously, it does not happen.
Well, I am balding, but I am definitely not a middle-aged Jewish man. I'm not even a middle-aged anything man, really. Yeah. But in any case, I'm not the person to judge. Sometimes I look at Lynn and I'm like, why are you with me? So yeah, on that front, you really can't explain the attraction, what people are attracted to. As we actually established, the woman that Julia, I believe her name is.
Yeah.
When Josh hooks up with her, I actually made a very wonderful observation. She dresses him up in a suit from her ex-boyfriend, who the suit very much seemed to fit. So it tells me that clearly Josh floats her boat. You never really know what people are truly attracted to until you get a chance to know them. The one thing you can definitely say about Josh is that he's, for all of his faults, seems to be a person who actually seems very confident in himself in his interactions with women. I mean, he did try to ask his other fellow secretary out on a date because he thought that he was a catch. So this is turning us to a movie critique and more of a therapy session here. And you know what? That's kind of appropriate because of
given the
nature of this film. It's a very neurotic film in the fashion that it's talking about a guy who, as he said, he's fallen into this groove which has been thrown off. And one of the best scenes I noticed, was him leaving his messages to his head secretary.
Yeah, I did love that.
Yeah.
Overall, okay, I should be clear. Overall, I really enjoyed the film. I laughed a lot. I also loved the IT guy. Being the IT guy.
Yeah.
I loved. Yeah.
But his one-man shows, as any one-man shows are, very verbose. He does have visual aids, but it's very much about the words. So I'm always amazed when they make a film based on a one-man show and they're able to visualize it. I mean, I guess technically Hedwig and the Angry Inch is another example of turning what is for all intents and purposes a one-man show into a movie. So it's always impressive to me how they're able to visualize the jokes, which work well in dialogue form, but the way they do that here.
I don't know how difficult it is to find. I had never heard of it before. But
yeah, that is the hitch with Rare Delicacies. We're also digging up things which may be very difficult to get a hold of. I don't even know if this is on iTunes. The one-man show HAIKU TUNNEL is in a book with his first one, Red Diaper Baby. So there's that. I always try to tell people, if you loved Office Space, go on this one, just because...
I agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, even though Office Space is definitely much more biting, a bit more aggressive. And this is actually a good thing to point out. How, in a fashion, we kind of demonize our bosses when, in reality, they are probably some of the most innocuous people.
Yeah, because he really wasn't a bad guy.
Yeah, I love how it's built up that Bob Shelby is Satan. I mean, not just a bad guy, not like a member of the Gotti clan. No, this guy is Satan. His his predecessor says he's evil, that he's Satan, and I think maybe all that comes about like because all of his problems it's the fact he's like, my boss is Satan, and in the end, he actually turns out to be the nicest guy in the room. Go back to your desk, settle down, focus. Ketchup. Ole!
Yeah, that was beautiful.
All of us, maybe that's what we just need to do to get through our daily grind. Because sometimes, speaking from experience, for everyone concerned, we do sometimes make, especially for all of us who aren't up there with them, sometimes we make it bigger than what it really is. And in all possibility, maybe we realize it's just a simple case of settling down.
That and taking a breath and going, okay, let me look at it from the other point of view. And usually, once I look at it from the other point of view, I go, okay, I see where they're coming from. I may not agree 100% with what they're doing, but what they're doing makes sense.
And the thing I loved about the final very melodramatic resolution, which is accompanied with this amazing lush orchestral flourish, with him just very...
Yeah.
I love that, but it's great because it gives a sense of release to him. You see that he's finally at peace, and things aren't going to be as bad as all that, and that he can actually do all the things he wants to do, but still have this new life of permanence kind of thing. That his life isn't ending kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we all tend to make things so gargantuan and so epic, and that's where I think the absurdist level comes in here, is how epic he makes everything.
Change is scary.
Yeah. And
it usually isn't that bad.
Yeah, in the end. I guess that's what we could definitely take away from this movie. So would you definitely put this one on the menu for other people?
I would definitely, yeah. Seriously, it's worth watching.
All right.
Yeah. I had a good laugh. Yeah.
So with that, I've definitely put it on the menu. I'll serve it at parties. So with that, I think that's another win. So for more addictive content on Narcotic Casserole, like, share, subscribe. This one...